Hello everyone, Richard here and welcome to a new weekly overview here on Alt Crypto Talk. Today's topic is Top 10 Altcoins to Buy in May, Part 2. Make sure to watch Part 1 first, have coffee, tea and enjoy it. And of course, if you like such content, smash that like button. Starting with APT, Aptos, it has been rejecting a very strong support zone from weekly time frame. That's why we'll be looking for long-term longs targeting the next resistance around 9 to 10 round numbers. As long as this 5 holds, I'll be looking for short-term and long-term longs. On daily time frame, the momentum has been finally shifted from a medium-term perspective, of course, after breaking above this falling channel, as you can see in red. We are currently bullish, making higher lows and higher highs, trading within this rising broadening wedge, as you can see in orange, and we are currently retesting the lower bound of it. That's why, as long as the 5 holds, as mentioned from weekly time frame, I'll be looking for longs. Short term, if you break above this last major high at 5.34, I'll be expecting a movement towards the 7 round number, and then of course the second target would be, as mentioned, between 9 and 10 resistance zone. Next we've got NEAR. Weekly time frame also rejecting a very strong structure. Previously support turned resistance, now acting as support, which is also lining up perfectly with the lower bound of this falling channel. For the bulls to take over and start this big impulse movement towards the 7 round number, a break above this last head and shoulders or the inverse head and shoulders neckline at 3.65. If you break it upward, we'll be expecting the shift in momentum to happen just like APT, and then the bulls to take over. Every correction would be a dip for us to be looking for trend following longs. So long story short, meanwhile, as we retest this lower band, look for short-term longs, but for the bulls to take over medium term, a break above the 3.65 is needed. Number 3, we've got Sonic. Weekly time frame can't really say much, but it's rejecting the 0.5 round number. Daily time frame, you can clearly see it, just like NEAR and Aptos. Overall bullish, making higher lows and higher highs. As long as the last major low holds, which would be around 0.48, we'll be looking for longs targeting short term the upper bound of this big range around 0.61, and then long term, if you break above this last major high from weekly and daily time frames, we'll be expecting a bigger crazy bullish movement towards the 1 round number. So long story short, break above the 0.53, expect a short-term movement towards the 0.62, break above the 0.64, expect a movement towards the 1 round number. Number 4, OP, Optimism, at its best, right? As we retest the lower bound of this channel as per our last market outlook, we'll be looking for longs targeting the resistance zone at 1.12. Meanwhile, just like the previous altcoins, we are bullish medium term, trading within this flat rising broadening wedge. As we approach the lower bound of it, I'll be looking for longs targeting this 1 round number. H4 time frame, we are bearish now, especially after breaking below these major lows, just like previously. 2 major lows broken, big bearish movement, and just like previously as well, 2 major lows broken, big bearish movement. We are currently in this correction phase, so as we approach the lower bound, of course, wait for a high, break it to the upside, and then buy and target the 1.12 round numbers. Or of course, we might still have a reversal from here if and only if the 0.755 is broken to the upside. Next, we've got IOTA. Also overall bullish, finally shifting the momentum, which is the case for many altcoins after breaking above this falling wedge pattern. We are currently bullish, trading within this rising channel. H4 time frame, wait for confirmation. Of course, no matter how cheap an altcoin is, no matter how strong it is, maybe making high highs, don't buy blindly. You don't want to be buying a correction right at the top of the impulse. When you see an impulse, wait for a correction. Nothing moves straight up. So, for example, IOTA pushed higher, correction, break a high, push higher again. Correction now, break a high, wait for this break, and then expect a movement towards the upper bound of this wedge pattern, which would be lining up with a 0.3 round number. Of course, we would be bullish for IOTA as long as this structure holds. If the 0.2 is broken downward, we'll be expecting a deeper bearish movement. Next, compound, comp. around the lower bound of this big flat wedge pattern, lining up perfectly with the support and demand zone around 30 to 40. As long as this support holds, we'll be looking for longs. And you can clearly see the shift in momentum happening real time. You don't need any indicators. You can clearly see previously making lower highs and lower lows, and currently making higher lows and higher highs. This is where you want to be looking for buy setups to capitalize on the next bullish wave. In a bearish market, a dip will not be a dip, would be a lower low. But in a bullish market, just like now, a correction would be a dip to be buying and expecting the next impulse movement. Of course, just like previously, we are currently in this correction. Impulse, correction phase, impulse, correction phase, impulse, and we are currently in this correction phase. We want to break above the correction to expect the next impulse movement, which would be targeting the 50 round number. Meanwhile, as we are retesting a very strong support, demand zone and 40 round number, we'll be looking for short-term longs targeting the upper bound of this falling channel, as you can see in orange. XDC, very strong support zone, previously resistance, broken upward in a very aggressive manner after surging by over 300-400%. Currently, after rejecting the 0.1, 0.12, we've pushed lower as a correction phase. However, we are still holding strong above the structure, which is also a demand zone. For the bulls to take over, very simple, we need to see a break above this last major high, just like here, for example. And we had a massive, crazy bullish movement. Now, we are waiting for this high to be broken at 0.083. In this case, I'll be expecting a first target around the previous resistance at 0.12 and maybe 0.2 if you break this resistance at 0.128 upward. For now, we are looking for short-term longs targeting this upper bound of this small range at 0.08. We'll be bullish unless we break the support downward below 0.066. In this case, we'll be expecting a deeper bearish movement. We still have 3 more. Next, we've got NATIX Network. Daily time frame in a big range, and we've surged, even though it's a small one, but we surged with around 30 to 40% just last week. However, we are currently rejecting the upper bound of this range. You can see how clear this range is, and NATIX has been rejecting the upper bound over and over again. We'll be seeing a breakout this time. Let me know in the comments, and of course subscribe if you like such content. Don't forget that. So if you break this major high upward, we'll be expecting bullish movement towards the 0.0015 round number. Meanwhile, if you retest this area, we'll be looking for longs. You can see it better on H4 time frame. If you retest this area intersecting with the trend line and the previous structure, we'll be looking for short-term longs targeting the 0.00086. Next, we've got Sui, one of the best performers of the cycle, let me say. Sui, overall bullish. We've got this massive impulse correction, smaller impulse correction. I don't like the fact that we had a smaller impulse after a big impulse. Usually it's a sign of weakness, just like, for example, you can see here, massive impulse, smaller impulse movements before we finally have a reversal. So we might be here, which is the second phase. So for example, if you compare it, big impulse, correction, correction, smaller impulse, and we are currently exactly here. So we still can have 2 high highs, right? If you compare the previous highs, of course, if history repeats itself. So we are still good, and we can still reach the 5 round number. This is where my targets are. H4 time frame, you can see the correction phases even better. If you break above this high, the impulse started. If you break above this high, the impulse would start. If you just compare the previous cycles and do exactly the same thing. Meanwhile, as we are retesting this 3.5 support zone, we'll be looking for short-term longs. But I'm waiting for this high or a new high to be formed and then to expect another bigger bullish wave. Last but not least, AERO. Big support zone. We are getting tested around the 0.5 round number as well. After breaking it upward, it's now acting as support. You can see the shift in momentum in action actually. So we have been bearish, big impulse movements, smaller impulse movements, flat impulse movement. This is an early alert that a potential reversal might happen. And this is exactly what happened. We broke above the previous high, which was the confirmation, and now since then finally we who have been making high lows and high highs after a couple of months of even almost a year making low highs and low lows. So AERO, don't be afraid if you see a bearish movement, because now we are bullish. So if you just hold it spot, you can just wait and you can see higher highs soon. If you're traded on margin, it's a very good area to be booking profit around the end of the impulse and to be buying around the low band of this impulse or the end of the correction movement. And this is exactly what we are looking for. H4 time frame, correction movements, and waiting for a break above the 0.67 to expect the next bullish impulse to start. That's it for this week. Top 10 altcoins to buy in May part 2. Let me know if you would like me to go for part 3 before June starts. And I'll see you hopefully on the next one.